And with that, let's welcome Kevin Cooney back to Philly Pressbox Radio. Kevin, welcome.
Hey, Bill. Hey, Chad. How are you?
Doing all right, Kevin. Hey, we got a lot to cover with you, and we're going to start with some football, but no, not the Eagles. Here's the deal. Bill's a big Penn State fan. I'm a PSU alum and a fan. Yeah, I knew that was coming. You're a long
You're laughing once. He's laughing once since 1988.
Go ahead, get it out.
You haven't laughed since '86.
So anyway, what is your take on, first of all, the very entertaining Orange Bowl game that, the Fighting Irish won, and how they're going to do Monday night down in Atlanta?
All right, this is a double whammy. One, I thought the Orange Bowl was terrific theater. I thought both teams played fairly well. Both defenses are terrific. Drew Allard just made a mistake he can't make in throwing over the middle like that, and especially against the Notre Dame defense, which has thrived on turnovers. The fact that Penn State almost, look, it was 2 turnovers to 1. Penn State almost got away with a couple other turnovers. The pass interference calls that set them up actually and took points off the board put points on the board basically for Penn State, I thought was advantageous. As far as Notre Dame's shot, I'm happy that they're there. I think Marcus Freeman has been terrific. I will tell you that I think Notre Dame probably has about a 20% chance on Monday night. The way that Ohio State's playing, if Will Howard plays the way he did in the Cotton Bowl or in the Rose Bowl, if they find the receivers, the one thing Notre Dame can do is they do have defensive backs that can match up, which would create maybe a little bit of a hope. But the injuries for Notre Dame is the biggest problem in my mind, especially along the offensive line. That's probably why Ohio State's going to win. But I'm happy with the way the program's going at this point.
Yeah, I'm concerned more for Notre Dame in the trenches. I think their Ohio State's strength, I think, probably is Notre Dame's weakness, and that's
defensive line to the offensive line right now because of the injuries. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. But I tell you what, I'm not a big Notre Dame fan, never have been. I can't root for Chip Kelly ever.
Wow. And that's the thing. It's like the way college football, you look at a college football season's been changed this year because, look, Notre Dame, after losing to Northern Illinois, probably had no right being in the tournament. But they got hot and they played well at the end. And we saw a lot of, and Bill, you know this living down there, we saw a lot of Florida State teams in the past who didn't have a shot to win it, who got hot under Bobby Bowden, who would have benefited from a system like this.
Yes.
Ohio State that lost to Michigan would have been an eliminator in a lot of ways. I think Penn State, honestly, and I know that the Oregon game you can't really punish them for playing in a conference title game, but the Ohio State loss was so bad at home, I'm not sure Penn State would have got a shot in a normal circumstance with a 14 field. So it's good in some way. I wonder what the erosion on the regular season is going to be as we move forward the next year.
And those championship games for sure.
Championship games, I think, will go the way of the dodo at some point. I think they're extinct. They'll just merge. They'll expand the field and they'll merge basically all of them into the tournament, at least in the power 3 at this point.
Right.
All right, let's get on to the Eagles. Big win last Sunday, of course, over the Packers. 12-point win could have been even more impressive had Saquon not been so, gentlemanly on that final run. A lot of criticism, though, of the quarterback still. He threw 2 touchdown passes, didn't throw any picks, had a 111.4 passer rating, but you're hearing still a lot of people critical of Jalen Hurts. What's your take, Kevin?
Well, that's the nature of the position in this town. Yeah. I think that, if you don't put 40 up, people are going to wonder why. To be honest, I thought the major part of the problem was in their offensive sets was play calling. I thought that Kellen Moore had an awful afternoon. I thought that he didn't really use Saquon enough early. I thought that the lack of slants to both Brown and Smith were inexcusable. That's more than Jalen. And I think he also hurt Jalen because he never really got Jalen in a rhythm. I know he hit the first 6, but after that he missed a couple. And instead of doing slants, easy kind of patterns to your main wide receivers, you were trying to extend things a little more, and I didn't like that. And they could totally do away with the sideline screen pass that they've tried for years here, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Look, this game coming up, they're the favorite for a reason. They're the better team. I think the Rams won that game last week because two reasons. One, they took advantage of the blitz that Brian Flores threw at them a ton, and Vic Fangio is not going to blitz a ton in this game. That's one. And two, I think they took advantage of a lot of emotion. I think that, Minnesota was down after losing to Detroit. They didn't look – we saw that last year in that 4-5 game when the Eagles ended up having to go to Tampa. It's very difficult for that team who just misses a home game and everything to go on the road against a good opponent. And that's what happened. And you add in the fact that the Rams now, after all the emotion they had, after going home for a couple of days, now trying to fly back east, the weather's supposed to be a factor. It's going to be cold. Matt Stafford's never been great throwing the ball under wet conditions when he was in Detroit and playing in the NFC North. I think you're going to see more of an Eagles route this week, a more symbolic performance than what we saw out of this group last week.
Kevin, I'm with you on Kellen Moore 100% in this game. And a couple things came to my mind as I watched the game is, one, was this the game plan to be this super conservative? Two, the Kellen Moore stink the place up. Three, without seeing the all 22 film to see if Hurts actually missed receivers or whatever. Or four, is Jalen Hurts just not good enough? And I follow that up with the fact that I tried to get this graphic on the screen, but due to my technical incompetence, it didn't get up there. But they had 6 third down plays. 3rd and 5, they ran a draw. 3rd and 10, they ran the screen against the blitz.
They did surrenders.
12, right? 3rd and 12, they ran. 3rd and 13, they scrambled. 3rd and 10, they ran. 3rd and 13, they ran. Something was out of sorts there.
Well, I think there's two things at play. One, they knew that was a game that the only way they could really lose was turning the ball over. And they played it conservative, and they were very conservative. And against Detroit, you can't be that conservative. Right. Against Kansas City or Baltimore or Buffalo, whoever you may face in New Orleans, if you get there, you can't be that conservative. But against the Packers, you could. And I think against the Rams this week, you can. Because I think there's going to be mainly a running game this coming week. I don't think anybody who had questions about Jalen Hurts last week, you're not going to get any more answers this week because the game plan is going to be, well, here's the way to keep those aggressive defensive linemen from the Rams kind of in a mush rush, and it's by just feeding Saquon and Kenny Gainwell the ball time and time and time again. And if that's the case, then the Eagles are probably going to do what they did to them in LA, which was overwhelm them in the second half.
The Eagles are reasonably healthy. I mean, A.J. Brown a bit banged up. Nakobe Dean, though, out for the postseason now. How big a loss is that?
It's bigger the further down the road you get. Look at the teams remaining. Look, Tyler Higbee could exploit that a little bit as tight ends. As the tight end probably would be a factor in this game a little more than it was last week. And the Packers had no healthy bodies left. That was the other part of this, too. It was body bag game 2 by the time they got to the end. I would say the Dean absence will be felt when they get to Detroit. If Montgomery, when Montgomery and Gibbs coming out of the backfield, they have a good tight end as well. Obviously, the kid from Iowa. That's where they're going to miss Dean because Oren Burks and Jeremiah Trotter, there's a reason they're backups. Not bad backups, but there's a reason they're backups. And Trott especially, I know it's a great story. He's a local kid. I love watching him at prep and all that. The problem with Trott is just his size. And I think in a big game situation, teams could exploit that.
What'd you think of the defensive back situation the other day? I thought it was interesting. Of course, Slay went out, banged up, did come back. They actually worked on Mitchell a little bit, which we haven't seen until this week. Have the opponents found maybe a little weakness in him that they think they can exploit?
Bill, actually, if you think of it, if you go back to the final 3 games of the regular season when he played, they started to pick on him a little more. And I think part of that was they were not willing to throw over to Slay's side because it's a veteran. I think part of that is veteran knowledge, and that Darius Slay hasn't shown that big a drop off. So it's a little sign of healthy respect. So you tried a rookie out. Part two is the fact that he hasn't played this long a season. And I think that part of it is the idea that maybe they just figure you can catch a little bit of a fatigue factor. And look, against Washington, he was beat. He was beat in the game against Dallas, if you remember as well. It's growing pains. It's to be expected. This week, I would assume he'll be up against Nakua, and they'll probably have Cup on a Slay on Cup at this point with the Gene helping out over the top.
Kevin, last one from me on the Eagles front. You put Notre Dame's chances of winning Monday night at, I think you said 22%. What are the Eagles' chances of beating Detroit out there if it comes to that?
50-50.
Really?
Because the one thing the Eagles style travels. It's defense and it's running the football. You're not going to be intimidated by what's going on. I don't think you're going to be intimidated by a crowd yelling. I'll be honest, Chet, I don't rule out Washington going into Detroit and winning. Washington right now has that they have that kiss of destiny kind of thing going. And so I think they're going to keep it a little closer than everybody believes. I think Detroit will probably end up winning. But to me, I don't think it's a slam dunk that Detroit gets out of this. Because, look, all the injuries they've had, and I know they're getting some guys back. We talked about the rust factor last week. If they fall behind Jaden Daniels, that could be a problem.
One final football question for me. I'm really looking forward to Baltimore at Buffalo. Slugfest, I think. Who you like in this game?
Can I say Kansas City?
Well, they're going to win.
Well, no, and I mean this, that I think both of those teams will beat the hell out of each other, and it's going to compromise whoever advances.
That's true.
For the following week. Yeah. I think we've hit that point where you just, and ignore my stepdaughter going and talking.
She's more than welcome to join us.
Kitchen, yeah. No, I would say that right now. I like Buffalo. Lamar's not a great cold weather quarterback, and the weather on Sunday is supposed to be downright Arctic.
Yep.
But I think the toll that what takes place in that game is going to just be too much on the winner to go to Kansas City and then win in Arrowhead the following Sunday.
Kevin, let's talk a little baseball. We're less than a month of catchers and pitchers reporting down in Clearwater. The Phillies didn't do a whole lot over the offseason. They added outfielder Max Kepler, a starting pitcher, Jesus Luzardo, and a reliever, Jordan Romano. Is there more to come? What should we expect from the Phillies this year?
I think they're going to probably save whatever assets they have for a trade deadline move. And that involves giving Alec Boehm a shot to kind of reclaim himself this year. Luzardo's a big pickup. I actually like the Luzardo pickup. Yeah. And it also opens them up if it prevents them from having to sweat out the Taijuan Walker thing like they did last year. It does kind of open the door, too, for Ranger Suarez to get moved. If not in spring training, then maybe at the trade deadline or whatever, if they feel like that they could survive without him, and they're going to lose him in free agency next year. And obviously with him going to Boris, it's probably a pretty good indication that they're going to lose him. I think they're fine. I know because they didn't make the splashy move, and I know, I think their bullpen is a little bit of a concern. I think that's the area that, Jordan Romano is somebody who has had closing experience, but the problem is he's coming off of a major injury, and you're trying to get a reclamation project, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I think they are probably the best team in the division. The Mets still have pitching issues. The Braves, I got to see what Acuna and Strider are before I can kind of put them back on top. But they're behind the Dodgers, and there's little doubt about that. But the problem is, guys, get to October, and we've learned this the last 3 years. Get to October, and it's a crapshoot. I know the Dodgers won, and I know the Yankees won. They were the big markets and everything. But it's a crapshoot on the way how everything falls. If the Brewers hold on in the ninth inning in Game 3 in Milwaukee, the Phillies are probably in the World Series last year because I think they match up well against the Dodgers.
Hey, Kevin, before we run out of time, we have to talk about your Hall of Fame ballot.
Yeah.
You've been a voter for a long time. Pretty solid this year, right? I can't even argue with you much like I did last year.
You're one of the rare people that didn't argue with me. Look, Suzuki, I know, is going to be unanimous. CC should be in. I think Billy Wagner, and I've been a long time Billy Wagner advocate because his numbers in the regular season, I know everybody goes, oh my God, his postseason is just awful. And no, his numbers in the regular season are all-time great.
Yeah.
And he really didn't pitch for teams that had great postseason shots anyway. If you go back to the Houston years and, his 1 year with the Mets, or his 2 years with the Mets, rather. The Rollins-Utley one is the one around here I get asked the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I voted for both. I think Jimmy's numbers, if you compare them to Barry Larkin, are pretty favorable, and Larkin's in the Hall of Fame, so I'm going to go and give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. Chase is not a traditional numbers guy, but the analytics, I view Chase in the same way, Bill, that I view Don Mattingly, that he was so dominant in his position for 5 years. Now, did it translate to 10, which is normally the Hall of Fame standard? No, but he was the best. He was among the top 5 players in his sport for 5 straight years, and injury kind of sidelined him. And so is it a little hometown bias because I saw Utley every day? Yeah, maybe. But I know there's a case to be made for Chase to at least hang on the ballot, and that's kind of where I went with him. Jimmy, to me, it's an outrage that he's not higher. Jimmy is an MVP. Jimmy was the leader of a team that won a World Series and won 5 divisions. Jimmy had Gold Gloves. Jimmy was a superior defender to Utley, by the way.
Yeah.
To me, it's a sin that Jimmy's case has not been taken up by more of the people. And I'm trying to figure out why. Maybe because his attitude to some people was a little too smug. And look, as much as I hate to say it, my colleagues sometimes vote on who they like and who they don't like. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of it with Jimmy.
Kevin, we're just about out of time. And boy, what a shame. We didn't get to talk about the Sixers lineup that I got to watch in person last night.
Well, no, that's okay. I was okay without talking about that. However, I will say this has been a really bad week for that organization because they burned a lot of bridges in Center City. They did. A lot of people in city council, and including Mayor Parker, got left to twist in the wind. And it's not going to hurt them now. They're going to get their arena and everything. It may hurt them down the road. And it is, guys, I think it's set up the fact that this ownership group is going to sell fairly quick.
They keep putting that crap on the court. It's going to start hurting them real soon.
Well, and that's the thing. They're the biggest benefactor of the Eagles right now. And they better hope it goes to February 9th or whatever it is in New Orleans. Because after that, then they're bullseye, and including the head coach, who's not done a great job this year. And I know he's had injuries, and I know the Embiid thing's not his fault. And Daryl Morey's been a ghost and not really talked to anybody. At some point, the bullseye turns to them, and it's not going to be fun.
I'm with you.
Kevin, we are out of time. Thank you for doing this. We'll catch you on 97.5 point this weekend, I'm sure.
Friday night and Sunday morning.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Fantastic.